The dust swirled around Emma Hartley's boots as she planted herself in the center of Redemption's town square, her green eyes blazing with a fury that matched the scorching Arizona sun beating down on this August day in 1882. And she knew that what she was about to do would either save her family's ranch or destroy everything her father had built before his death 3 months ago. Silas Drummond stood on the wooden steps of the land office, his expensive suit and polished boots marking him as different from every other soul in this hard-scrabble town. The cattle baron owned nearly everything worth owning in this part of the territory, and now he wanted the Hartley ranch too. Emma's hands trembled, but she kept them steady at her sides as she watched him descend those steps with the confidence of a man who had never been told no in his entire life. "Miss Hartley," Silas said, his voice carrying across the square where townspeople had started to gather, sensing drama in the hot afternoon air. "I believe we had an appointment to finalize the sale of your property. My offer is more than generous considering the state of your herd after the drought." Emma's throat felt dry, but she forced the words out loud and clear. "There will be no sale, Mr. Drummond. My father built that ranch from nothing, and I intend to keep it running. The drought will break, and we will recover." Silas's expression darkened, his thick gray mustache twitching with displeasure. "Your father was a reasonable man. You are a foolish girl playing at ranching. Without your father, that land is worthless in your hands. Take my offer now, or I will make sure you lose everything anyway." The crowd murmured, some sympathetic, others clearly afraid to cross the most powerful man in 3 counties. Emma felt her resolve wavering for just a moment. She was 22 years old, and running a cattle ranch alone was nearly impossible for anyone, let alone a woman in 1882. But her father had believed in her, had taught her everything he knew about the land, the cattle, and the hard work required to survive in this unforgiving territory. "Your threats do not scare me," Emma said, though her heart hammered against her ribs so hard she wondered if everyone could hear it. "I will not sell." Silas took a step toward her, his face reddening. "You will regret this defiance, girl. I have ways of making stubborn people see reason. Your water rights can disappear. Your cattle can wander off. Accidents happen on ranches all the time, especially to women who do not know their place." The words hung in the air like a physical threat, and Emma felt ice slide down her spine despite the heat. She opened her mouth to respond, but before she could speak, a deep voice came from directly behind her, so close she could feel the warmth of another person at her back. "I'm standing right behind you." Emma's breath caught. She had not heard anyone approach, but now she was acutely aware of a presence, solid and reassuring, just inches away. The voice was calm, steady, and carried a quiet authority that made even Silas Drummond pause mid-stride. "And I heard every word you just said, Drummond," the voice continued. "Threatening a woman, threatening her property, making promises about accidents, that is not just ungentlemanly. Where I come from, that is the kind of talk that gets a man called out." Emma turned slightly and saw him. He was tall, perhaps 6 feet, with sun-bronzed skin and dark hair that curled slightly at the collar of his worn but clean shirt. His eyes were a startling blue-gray like storm clouds over the desert, and they were fixed on Silas Drummond with an intensity that made the cattle baron take an involuntary step backward. He wore a gun belt slung low on his hips, and his hands rested casually near the revolvers, not threatening but ready. Everything about him suggested capability and danger held in careful check. "Who the hell are you?" Silas demanded, though his voice had lost some of its earlier confidence. "Name is Cole Tanner," the cowboy said. "I just rode into town looking for work. Seems I found it." Emma's mind raced. She had never seen this man before in her life, yet he was standing up for her against the most dangerous man in the territory. She should tell him to leave, to not get involved, but the words would not come. Instead, she found herself drawing strength from his presence, standing a little straighter. "Miss Hartley is not selling," Cole said, still in that same calm, steady voice. And if anything unfortunate happens to her ranch or her cattle or her person, well, I expect the law will want to ask you some questions about those threats you just made in front of all these witnesses." Silas looked around the square. The crowd had grown larger, and faces that had been carefully neutral now showed a flicker of something else. Hope, maybe, or just the satisfaction of seeing a bully called out. Silas was powerful, but even powerful men could be brought down if enough people stood against them. "This is not over," Silas said, pointing a thick finger at Emma. "You cannot run that ranch alone, and this drifter will not stay. When he leaves, you will be alone again, and I will have what I want." "I guess you will just have to wait and see about that," Cole said. He shifted slightly, moving to stand beside Emma rather than behind her, presenting a united front. "I find I am not much in the mood for drifting lately. Could be I will stick around Redemption for a while." Silas stared at them both for a long moment, then turned on his heel and strode toward the hitching post where his horse waited. He mounted with barely controlled anger and rode off without another word, dust kicking up from his horse's hooves. The crowd began to disperse, some people offering Emma encouraging nods, others hurrying away as if afraid of guilt by association. Emma stood frozen for a moment, trying to process what had just happened. Then she turned to face the stranger who had just upended her entire afternoon. "Why did you do that?" she asked. "You do not even know me." Cole removed his hat, revealing more of his face. He had a strong jaw, a nose that looked like it had been broken at least once, and a mouth that seemed more accustomed to smiling than frowning, though he was not smiling now. He looked to be perhaps 27 or 28, young enough to still have the lean build of a working cowboy, but old enough to have the seasoned look of a man who had seen his share of trouble. "I heard the conversation as I was riding in," Cole said. "Heard him threatening you. My mother raised me better than to stand by when a man threatens a woman. Seemed like the right thing to do." Emma studied him, trying to determine if he was genuine or if this was some elaborate scheme. But his eyes were steady and honest, and something in her gut told her to trust him. Her father had always said to trust her instincts about people. "I cannot pay much," she heard herself say. "The ranch is struggling, just like Drummond said. The drought has been hard, and I have only 2 hands left. Most of the others quit when my father died, afraid I could not keep the place going." "What can you pay?" Cole asked. "Room and board, and maybe $15 a month if we can get the cattle to market in the fall," Emma said. It was embarrassingly little, she knew. Most ranch hands made $30 or $40 a month on a prosperous spread. Cole was quiet for a moment, then he nodded. "Room and board sounds fine. I am not much worried about the money right now. Seems to me you need someone who can handle himself, and I can do that. Plus, I expect Drummond will not take kindly to what happened here today. You might need someone watching your back." "You would do that for a stranger?" Emma asked. "Well," Cole said, and now the corner of his mouth did turn up in a slight smile, "I figure we will not be strangers for long if I am working for you. Besides, I do not much like bullies, and that Drummond fellow strikes me as the worst kind." Emma felt something loosen in her chest, a knot of tension she had been carrying since her father's death. She was not alone anymore, at least for now she had help. She stuck out her hand, and Cole took it. His hand was calloused and strong, and his grip was firm but careful, as if he was very aware of his own strength. "Thank you," she said. "I am Emma Hartley." "Pleased to meet you, Miss Hartley," Cole said. "Now why do not you show me this ranch of yours and let me know what needs doing?" They walked to where Emma's wagon waited on the side of the square, a sturdy buckboard that had seen better days but was still serviceable. Cole went to retrieve his horse, a handsome bay gelding with intelligent eyes and a calm disposition. He tied the horse to the back of the wagon and climbed up beside Emma without being asked. As Emma guided the team out of town, she found herself acutely aware of Cole sitting beside her. He smelled of leather and horse and something else, maybe sage or juniper, clean and masculine. She kept her eyes on the road ahead, but she could feel him looking around, taking in the landscape with the practiced eye of someone who knew land and cattle. "How big is your spread?" Cole asked. "About 5,000 acres, Emma said. My father homesteaded the original 160, then bought up surrounding claims as people gave up and moved on. We have water rights to Silver Creek, which runs through the property. That is partly why Drummond wants it so badly. With my water and his land, he would control almost everything between here and the territorial border. How many head of cattle? We had nearly 800 before the drought. We are down to maybe 400 now. Some died. Some we had to sell off cheap just to raise cash for feed and supplies. The ones that are left are tough, though. Good stock. Cole nodded, processing this information. What about the hands you mentioned? Who is still with you? Old Pete has been with us since the beginning. He's in his 60s now, and his back is not what it used to be, but he knows cattle better than anyone. And there is Miguel. He is 25 and a hard worker. His family has a small farm on the eastern edge of the property. That is all. We need at least 6 men to run things properly, but I cannot afford to hire anyone, and no one wants to work for a woman anyway. Their loss, Cole said simply, and Emma felt a flush of warmth that had nothing to do with the Arizona heat. They rode in comfortable silence for a while. The road wound through scrubland dotted with mesquite and sagebrush, the mountains rising in purple shadows to the east. It was harsh country, unforgiving to those who did not respect it, but Emma loved it with a fierce passion. This land was in her blood, and she would fight to keep it no matter what Silas Drummond thought. The ranch house came into view as they crested a low rise. It was a simple adobe structure with a covered porch running along the front, built to stay cool in summer and warm in winter. There were several outbuildings, a barn, a bunkhouse, corrals, and a windmill that creaked as it turned in the constant breeze. Everything was neat and well-maintained despite the hardship. Emma made sure of that. Her father had taught her that taking care of your property showed respect for the work it took to build it. 2 men emerged from the barn as the wagon pulled up. Old Pete was exactly as his name suggested, weathered and bent, but with sharp eyes that missed nothing. Miguel was lean and dark, with the patient strength of someone raised to hard work. "Miss Emma?" Pete said. Then his eyes moved to Cole with open curiosity. "Who is this?" "This is Cole Tanner," Emma said, climbing down from the wagon. "He is our new hand. Cole, this is Pete and Miguel." "Ma'am, you cannot afford to hire anyone," Pete said bluntly. He had never been one to mince words. "He's working for room and board," Emma said. "And he stood up to Silas Drummond in town today, so I figure he is either very brave or very stupid, and either way we can use him." Pete's bushy eyebrows went up. "You stood up to Drummond?" "Miss Emma did the standing up," Cole said, swinging down from the wagon and moving to unhitch his horse. "I just made sure Drummond understood she was serious." Miguel came forward, offering his hand. "Any friend of Miss Emma is welcome here. We can use another hand. There's too much work for just the 2 of us." "What needs doing most urgently?" Cole asked, already looking around with a working man's eye for tasks. "Everything," Pete said with a dry laugh. "But right now we have got a section of fence down on the North Range. Cattle have been wandering, and we cannot afford to lose any more. Miguel and I were about to ride out, but my back is giving me trouble today." "I can handle the fence, Horfrey," Cole said. "Just point me in the right direction and give me the tools." Emma felt a surge of gratitude. Most men would want to rest after a day of riding, would want to settle in and get comfortable before starting work. But Cole was already moving toward the barn, following Miguel to get supplies. "Where did you find him?" Pete asked quietly once the other 2 men were out of earshot. "He found me," Emma said. "Or maybe we found each other. I do not know, Pete. I just know that when Drummond was threatening me in the square, and I was alone and afraid, Cole stepped up. He did not have to, but he did." Pete studied her face for a long moment. "You be careful, Miss Emma. He seems like a good man, but you do not know anything about him. Where he comes from, why he is here. A man with nothing to his name who takes a job for room and board, that is a man who might be running from something." "Or running towards something," Emma said. She did not know why she felt the need to defend Cole, but she did. "Maybe he is just a decent person who needed a fresh start. Lord knows this territory is full of people like that." "Just be careful," Pete repeated. "Your daddy trusted me to look after you, and I take that seriously." I know you do, Emma said, touching his arm gently, and I appreciate it. But I have a good feeling about Cole. I cannot explain it, but I do. Pete nodded, though he did not look entirely convinced. I will keep an eye on him. Now you should go inside and rest. You have been up since before dawn, and standing up to Drummond takes it out of a person. Emma wanted to argue, but she was exhausted. The confrontation in town had drained her more than she wanted to admit. She went inside the cool adobe house and stood in the main room looking around at the simple furniture her father had built with his own hands. His absence was like a physical ache, a constant reminder that she was now the one who had to make all the decisions, take all the risks, carry all the responsibility. She allowed herself 5 minutes of grief and doubt. Then she pushed it away and went to work. There were accounts to review, meals to plan, 100 small tasks that kept a ranch running. She had no time for weakness. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, Emma started preparing supper. It was simple fare, beans and cornbread with some dried beef, but it was filling and hot. She had just put the cornbread in the oven when she heard horses approaching. Through the window she saw Cole and Miguel riding back in, their silhouettes dark against the dying light. She watched as Cole dismounted and began untacking his horse with practiced efficiency. He moved well, comfortable in his body, and there was a grace to his movements despite his size. Miguel said something that made Cole laugh, and the sound carried across the yard, warm and genuine. Emma turned back to her cooking, oddly flustered. She could not remember the last time she had been so aware of a man. There had been a few suitors before her father died, but none who interested her. Most of them saw her as a means to acquire land, not as a person in her own right. But Cole had stepped up for her without any expectation of gain, had looked at Silas Drummond and not flinched, had taken a job for almost no pay because it was the right thing to do. The men came in for supper one by one, washing up at the pump outside and then settling around the large wooden table in the kitchen. Emma served the food, and for a few minutes there was only the sound of eating. Ranch work built appetites, and the men attacked their meals with focus. Fences mended, Cole said finally. Found about 10 head of cattle on the wrong side and drove them back. One of them had a nasty cut on her leg, probably from the barbed wire. I cleaned it and put some salve on it. She should be all right if it does not get infected. You know cattle, Pete said. It was not a question. I grew up on a ranch in Colorado, Cole said. My father had a small spread, nothing like this, but enough to keep us busy. I have been working cattle since I was big enough to sit a horse. What brought you to Arizona? Emma asked, then immediately wondered if she was being too forward. But Cole did not seem to mind the question. My parents died 5 years ago. Winter fever took them both within a week of each other. My older brother inherited the ranch, and he had his own ideas about how to run things. We did not see eye to eye, so I sold him my share and started moving. Worked on ranches in New Mexico and Texas, did some time as a deputy in a little town in Nevada, even spent a season driving cattle up to Dodge City. I guess I was looking for somewhere that felt right, and I had not found it yet. Does this place feel right? Miguel asked, with a slight smile. Cole looked around the simple kitchen, his eyes finally settling on Emma. I think it might, he said quietly. Ask me again in a few weeks. That night, lying in her narrow bed, Emma found herself unable to sleep. She kept replaying the events of the day in her mind. The confrontation with Drummond, the sound of Cole's voice behind her, steady and sure. The way he had stepped up without hesitation. The feeling of his hand in hers when they shook on the deal. She barely knew him, but something had shifted today. The path ahead was still dangerous and uncertain, but for the first time since her father died, Emma felt like she might not be walking it alone. The next morning dawned clear and hot, the sun already burning by the time Emma had breakfast ready. The men ate quickly and headed out to their tasks. There was always more work than hours in the day on a ranch, especially one as understaffed as hers. Emma spent the morning working in the vegetable garden she maintained behind the house, pulling weeds and checking the irrigation ditches. Water was precious, and every drop had to be used wisely. She was elbow-deep in dirt when she heard a horse approaching at speed. She stood up, shading her eyes, and saw one of Silas Drummond's men riding toward the house. Her stomach clenched. That had not taken long. She wiped her hands on her apron and walked around front to meet him. The rider was a man named Jack Sutter, one of Drummond's enforcers. He was known for his quick temper and quicker fists, and Emma had always gone out of her way to avoid him. He reined in hard, his horse snorting and dancing. "Miss Hartley," he said, not bothering with courtesy, "Mr. Drummond sent me with a message. He wants you to reconsider his offer. He is willing to go up another $500, but only if you agree by the end of the week. After that, the offer goes down, not up." "You can tell Mr. Drummond that my answer has not changed," Emma said, keeping her voice level. "I am not selling." Jack leaned forward in his saddle, his eyes hard. "You are making a mistake. Mr. Drummond is being generous. You should take the money while you can." "I appreciate your concern," Emma said, though her tone made it clear she did not appreciate it at all. "But my decision is final." "Where's that cowboy who was shooting his mouth off yesterday?" Jack asked, looking around. "He's not here to protect you now, is he?" "I do not need protection to tell you no," Emma said. "Now, if you will excuse me, I have work to do." She turned to go back to the garden, dismissing him. It was a calculated risk, turning her back on a man like Jack Sutter, but she refused to show fear. "You will regret this," Jack called after her. "Drummond always gets what he wants one way or another." Emma kept walking, though her legs felt shaky. She heard Jack wheel his horse and gallop off, hooves pounding. Only when the sound had faded did she let out the breath she had been holding. "That looked tense." Emma spun around. Cole was standing near the corner of the house, a coil of rope over his shoulder. He must have been working in one of the near pastures and seen Jack ride in. "You heard?" Emma asked. "Most of it," Cole admitted. "I was about to step in, but you seem to have it handled. You are tougher than you look, Miss Emma." "I have to be," Emma said. "Out here, any sign of weakness and people will walk all over you, especially if you are a woman." Cole nodded. "That Sutter fellow is the type who likes to intimidate people. But he backed down quick enough when you held firm. That is good." "Drummond will not stop," Emma said. "He wants this land, and he is used to getting his way. The threats will get worse." "Then we will deal with them as they come," Cole said. "But you are not alone in this, remember that." "Why do you care so much?" Emma asked suddenly. "You do not owe me anything. You could ride out today and find work somewhere safer, somewhere that pays real money." Cole was quiet for a moment, considering his answer. "I have spent the last 5 years drifting, taking jobs that did not matter, moving on when things got stale. I am tired of that. What you are doing here, trying to hold on to your family's legacy against someone who wants to take it from you, that matters. That means something. I want to be part of something that means something." Emma felt tears prick her eyes, but she blinked them away. "Thank you," she said softly. "That means more than you know." "Besides," Cole added with a slight smile, "I am getting 3 meals a day and a roof over my head. That is better than I have had in a while." Emma laughed despite herself. "Well, I am glad my cooking is good enough to keep you here." "Your cooking is excellent," Cole said. "Now I should get back to work. Those irrigation ditches on the east pasture need clearing, and Miguel could use a hand." He tipped his hat to her and walked away toward the barn. Emma stood watching him go, feeling that same warmth in her chest that she had felt the day before. It was dangerous, she knew, to let herself feel anything for a man she had just met, but she could not seem to help it. The days fell into a rhythm. The work was hard and constant, but with Cole's help, the ranch began to look better. Fences were mended, ditches cleared, the cattle slowly fattening up as late summer rains began to break the drought. Emma found herself looking forward to mealtimes, when all 4 of them would sit around the table and talk about the day's work, share stories, and occasionally laugh. Cole fit into their small crew as if he had always been there. Pete's initial suspicion gave way to grudging respect as Cole proved himself a tireless worker and skilled ranch hand. Miguel seemed to genuinely like him, and the two often rode out together talking in both English and Spanish, Cole apparently having picked up enough Spanish in his travels to hold a conversation. And Emma found herself drawn to Cole in ways that both thrilled and terrified her. He was unfailingly respectful, never overstepping or presuming, but there was something in the way he looked at her sometimes, a warmth in his eyes that made her pulse quicken. They talked in the evening sometimes after the others had gone to bed, sitting on the porch and watching the stars wheel overhead. He told her about his travels, the places he had seen, the people he had met. She told him about growing up on the ranch, about her father's dreams for the place, about her own determination to see those dreams realized. 3 weeks after Cole arrived, Emma rode into town for supplies. She had put it off as long as she could, wary of another confrontation with Drummond, but there were things they needed that could not be delayed. Cole offered to come with her, but she insisted he stay and help Pete with some branding that needed doing. The truth was she needed some time alone to think. Her feelings for Cole were growing stronger every day, and she did not know what to do about it. He had given no clear indication of his own feelings beyond friendship and loyalty. Maybe that was all this was to him, a job and some pleasant companionship. The thought made her chest ache. She was loading supplies into the wagon outside the general store when she heard a familiar voice. Well, Miss Hartley, all alone today?" Emma turned to see Silas Drummond standing a few feet away, flanked by Jack Sutter and another man she did not recognize. Her heart began to pound, but she kept her expression neutral. "Mr. Drummond," she said coolly, "I am just doing some shopping. If you will excuse me, I need to get these supplies back to the ranch." "Not so fast," Drummond said, moving closer. "We have business to discuss. My offer still stands, but it will not stand forever. I suggest you take it while you can." "I have told you repeatedly I am not interested in selling," Emma said. She glanced around, but the street was oddly empty. Had Drummond arranged that? Made sure she would be alone for this conversation? "You cannot run that ranch by yourself," Drummond said. "You are struggling. Everyone knows it. That cowboy you hired, Tanner, what do you think he is going to do when winter comes and you cannot pay him? He will move on, and you will be right back where you started, alone and failing." "My ranch is my business, not yours," Emma said. She moved toward the wagon, but Jack Sutter stepped in her way. "Mr. Drummond is trying to help you," Jack said. "You should listen." "Get out of my way," Emma said, her voice shaking now despite her best efforts. "Or what?" Jack asked, leaning closer. "What are you going to do about it?" Emma's hand moved to the small pistol she kept in her skirt pocket, her father's Derringer that she carried whenever she came to town. But before she could draw it, she heard the sound of a horse approaching at a gallop. She turned to see Cole riding hard down the main street, his face set in grim lines. He pulled his horse to a sliding stop right beside the wagon, and in one fluid motion, he was on the ground and standing between Emma and the 3 men. "I thought we settled it," Cole said. His voice was quiet, but there was steel in it. "Miss Hartley is not selling. How many times does she have to say it?" "This is none of your concern, cowboy," Drummond said. "This is business between Miss Hartley and myself." "You made it my concern when you backed her into a corner with your hired muscle," Cole said. "Now I suggest you all step back and let her finish her shopping in peace." Jack Sutter's hand moved toward his gun, but Cole was faster. In a blur of motion, his revolver was out and level, pointed directly at Jack's chest. Emma had not even seen him draw. "I would not," Cole said, still in that same quiet voice. "I am faster than you, and we both know it." The street had gone completely silent. Emma could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Drummond made a disgusted sound. "This is not over," he said. "You cannot watch her every minute of every day, Tanner. Sooner or later you will slip up, and when you do, I will have what I want." "Keep threatening her, and you will have bigger problems than me," Cole said. "I am sure the territorial marshal would be interested to hear about all these threats you keep making. Harassment, intimidation, trying to force someone off their land. Those are serious charges." Drummond's face flushed red, but he turned and walked away, Jack and the other man following. Cole did not holster his gun until they were out of sight. "How did you know to come?" Emma asked, her voice shaky. "Pete said he had a bad feeling about you going to town alone," Cole said, finally holstering his weapon. "I rode in behind you, stayed out of sight. Good thing I did." Emma felt tears start to fall, the fear and tension of the last few minutes catching up with her all at once. Cole stepped closer and, hesitating only a moment, pulled her into his arms. She went willingly, pressing her face against his chest and letting herself shake. "It is all right," he said softly, one hand coming up to stroke her hair. "You are safe. I have got you." They stood like that for a long moment, Emma drawing strength from his solid presence. When she finally pulled back, she was embarrassed by her show of weakness, but Cole just smiled gently. "Nothing wrong with being scared," he said. "Drummond is a dangerous man, but you stood up to him again, even when you were afraid. That takes real courage." "I do not feel courageous," Emma admitted. "I feel like I am in over my head." "You are doing fine, Reese." "Nay," Cole said. "Better than fine. You are running a ranch in the middle of a drought, standing up to a man 3 times your size with all the power in the territory, and you are still here, still fighting. That is amazing." Emma looked up at him, at his kind eyes and strong features, and felt her heart lurch in her chest. She was falling in love with him. The realization hit her like a physical blow. She had known she was attracted to him, had known she enjoyed his company. But this was something deeper. This was the kind of feeling that changed everything. "Cole," she began, but he shook his head gently. "Let us get you home, Iskats," he said. "We can talk later." The ride back to the ranch was quiet. Emma's mind raced, trying to figure out what to say, how to tell him what she was feeling, but every time she tried to form the words, they stuck in her throat. What if he did not feel the same way? What if this was just a job to him, and she was about to make a fool of herself? That evening after supper, Cole asked her to walk with him. They strolled towards Silver Creek, which ran through the property in a winding ribbon of precious water. The sun was setting, painting everything gold and red. "Emma," Cole said, and the use of her first name without the honorific made her breath catch. "I need to tell you something." "All right," Emma said, her heart pounding. "When I came to Redemption, I was not looking for anything except maybe a few days' work and a place to rest my horse," Cole said. "I had been drifting for so long I did not think I wanted anything more than that. But then I saw you in that square standing up to Drummond, and something changed. You were so brave, so determined. I could not just walk away." He paused, staring out at the water. "These past few weeks, working here, getting to know you, I have been happier than I have been in years. You make me want to stop drifting, to put down roots, to build something that lasts. And I know this might be too soon. I know you might not feel the same way, but I had to tell you, I am falling in love with you, Emma Hartley." Emma felt like she could not breathe. He loved her. He actually loved her. Joy flooded through her, so intense it was almost painful. "I love you too," she said, the words tumbling out. "I have been trying not to, telling myself it was too soon, that I did not know you well enough, but I cannot help it. You make me feel safe and understood and like I can do anything. I love you, Cole." Cole turned to her, his face transformed by a smile so bright it made her heart ache. He reached out and cupped her face in his hands, his thumbs brushing her cheekbones. "Can I kiss you?" he asked softly. "Please," Emma whispered. He kissed her gently at first, almost tentatively, as if she was something precious that might break. But when she responded, pressing closer and wrapping her arms around his neck, the kiss deepened. It was sweet and passionate and perfect, everything a first kiss should be. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Cole rested his forehead against hers. "I am going to marry you someday," he said, "if you will have me." "Yes," Emma said, laughing and crying at the same time. "Yes, I will have you, absolutely, yes." They walked back to the house hand in hand, and for the first time in months, Emma felt genuinely happy. The problems with Drummond had not gone away. The ranch was still struggling, but none of that mattered as much with Cole by her side. The next few weeks were the happiest Emma could remember. She and Cole were careful to maintain propriety, mindful of appearances, but everyone on the ranch could see the change in them. Pete grumbled good-naturedly about young people and romance, but his eyes were kind. Miguel just smiled and said he had known from the first day that something special was developing. The ranch continued to improve. Early fall rains came, blessing the parched land with moisture. The cattle fattened up, and Pete declared they would have a good herd to take to market. Emma began to hope that they might actually survive, might even thrive. But Silas Drummond was not done with them. It started with small things, tools that went missing, fences that were cut in the night, cattle that wandered off despite careful management. At first, Emma tried to tell herself it was just bad luck, but Cole knew better. "He is trying to wear you down," Cole said one evening as they surveyed another broken fence. "Make you think it is not worth the fight, but we are going to prove him wrong." They started taking turns keeping watch at night, patrolling the property. It was exhausting, adding to their already overwhelming workload, but there was no choice. They had to protect what was theirs. One night in late September, Cole was on watch when he heard horses approaching the north pasture. He rode toward the sound carefully, his rifle across his saddle. In the moonlight, he could see 3 men working on the fence, cutting the wires and preparing to drive off a portion of the herd. "Hold it right there," Cole called out, levering around into his rifle. The men spun around. Even in the dark, Cole recognized Jack Sutter and 2 other Drummond men. Jack's hand went for his gun, but Cole fired a warning shot that kicked up dirt at the man's feet. "Next one goes through you," Cole said. "Drop your weapons now." The sound of the shot woke everyone at the ranch. Within minutes, Emma, Pete, and Miguel arrived on horseback. Emma took in the scene quickly. "Caught in the act," she said. "We should take them to the sheriff." "The sheriff is in Drummond's pocket," Jack sneered. "You think anyone will care what we were doing out here?" "Maybe not," Cole said. "But the territorial marshal might, especially if we have witnesses. Rustling is still a hanging offense in these parts." Jack paled. "We were not rustling. We were just checking the fences." "At midnight with wire cutters?" Emma said. "Do you think we are stupid?" "Mr. Drummond is going to bury you for this," Jack said. "No, he is not," came a new voice from the darkness. Everyone turned to see a rider approaching. As he came into the moonlight, Emma recognized Marshal William Drake, the territorial marshal who covered this region. He was a stern man with a reputation for fairness and a complete lack of tolerance for corruption. "Marshal," Emma said, surprised, "what brings you out here?" "I received a telegram from a colleague in Santa Fe," Marshal Drake said. "He has been investigating Silas Drummond for land fraud and intimidation across the territory. When he heard Drummond was making moves on a ranch in Redemption, he asked me to keep an eye on the situation. I have been camped out on your southern border for 2 days now, watching and waiting. When I heard that shot, I figured something was finally happening." He looked at Jack and the other 2 men. "You 3 are under arrest for attempted cattle rustling and criminal trespass. Anything you want to tell me about who ordered you to do this?" Jack's face crumbled. Loyalty to Drummond apparently only went so far when facing a noose. "It was Drummond. He told us to make things difficult for Miss Hartley, to cost her money and time so she would have to sell. He said to cut fences, spook cattle, whatever it took." "That is what I thought," Marshal Drake said. He produced handcuffs and secured the 3 men. "Miss Hartley, would you and your people be willing to come into town tomorrow and make formal statements?" "Absolutely," Emma said. "It is about time Drummond faced consequences for what he has been doing." The next day, the entire crew rode into Redemption. News had spread quickly, and the town was buzzing with gossip. Silas Drummond was in the marshal's office, looking thunderous as Emma, Cole, Pete, and Miguel gave their statements. Jack Sutter and his companions had apparently been very talkative once they realized they could save themselves by cooperating. And their testimony, combined with evidence of Drummond's actions across the territory, was damning. Marshal Drake arrested Drummond on multiple charges, including conspiracy to commit cattle rustling, intimidation, and attempted extortion. The cattle baron's empire began to crumble almost immediately as other victims came forward, emboldened by Emma's stand. As Emma watched Drummond being led away in handcuffs, she felt a weight lift from her shoulders. It was over. The threat that had hung over her since her father's death was finally over. "You did it," Cole said softly beside her. "You stood up to him, and you won." "We did it," Emma corrected, taking his hand. "I could not have done any of this without you." That evening, back at the ranch, Cole asked Emma to walk with him again down to the creek. The cottonwood trees were starting to turn gold, and the air had the first crisp hint of fall. "Emma," Cole said, dropping to one knee beside the water, "I know we have only known each other a few months, but I have never been more certain of anything in my life. I love you. I want to spend every day for the rest of my life working beside you, building this ranch, making a life together. Will you marry me?" He pulled out a simple gold band. "It was my grandmother's he said. "The only thing of value I own. I would be honored if you would wear it." "Yes," Emma said, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, yes, 1,000 times yes." Cole slipped the ring on her finger, and it fit perfectly. He stood and kissed her, and Emma felt like her heart might burst from happiness. They were married a month later in a simple ceremony in Redemption's church. The whole town turned out, celebrating not just a wedding, but also the end of Drummond's reign of intimidation. Pete walked Emma down the aisle, gruff and proud. Miguel stood up as Cole's best man. It was perfect. The first year of their marriage was hard work but filled with joy. They hired more hands with the money from a successful cattle drive, and the ranch began to truly prosper. Emma and Cole worked side by side every day, partners in every sense of the word. The following spring, Emma discovered she was pregnant. Cole was over the moon, already planning additions to the house and talking about the future. Their son was born in December of 1883, a healthy boy with Cole's dark hair and Emma's green eyes. They named him James, after Emma's father. Life settled into a happy rhythm. The ranch grew and prospered. They had 2 more children over the next few years, a daughter named Sarah and another son they called Thomas. The house rang with laughter and the sounds of children playing. Pete stayed with them until he passed peacefully in his sleep at the age of 73, content in the knowledge that the ranch he had helped build was in good hands. Miguel eventually married a girl from town and built a house on the eastern edge of the property, raising his own family there. He and Cole remained close friends their whole lives. Silas Drummond was convicted of his crimes and spent 10 years in territorial prison. When he was released, he was a broken man, his fortune and influence gone. He left Arizona and was never heard from again. His former ranch lands were divided up and sold, bringing new families to the area. Emma and Cole grew old together on the ranch they loved. They faced droughts and hard winters, good years and bad, but they faced them together. Their children grew up strong and capable, learning the value of hard work and the importance of standing up for what was right. On warm evenings, Emma and Cole would sit on the porch they had expanded over the years, watching the sunset paint the desert in shades of gold and purple. Their grandchildren would play in the yard while they sat hand in hand, comfortable in the silence that comes from years of true partnership. "Do you ever regret it?" Emma asked one evening, when they were both in their 60s. "Taking that job for room and board? Tying yourself to a struggling ranch and a stubborn woman?" Cole laughed, the sound rich and warm. "Not for one single second. That day in the town square, when I heard you standing up to Drummond, that was the day my life really started. Everything before was just waiting to find you." "I was so scared that day," Emma admitted. "But then I heard your voice behind me, and suddenly I was not scared anymore. You gave me courage." "You already had courage," Cole said. "I just reminded you of it." He squeezed her hand. "We built something good here, Emma. Our children know who they are and what they stand for. The ranch is strong. We did what we set out to do." "We did it together," Emma said. "That is what made it possible." As the sun set on another day, Emma reflected on the incredible journey her life had taken. From that terrifying moment in the town square to this peaceful evening surrounded by family and the land she loved, it had been a remarkable ride. She had stood up to a cattle baron and won not just her ranch, but a love that had lasted a lifetime. Their oldest son James took over running the ranch when Cole and Emma were in their 70s, though they both still helped where they could. James had inherited his father's work ethic and his mother's determination, and under his guidance, the ranch continued to thrive. Sarah became a teacher, opening a school in Redemption and educating the children of ranchers and townspeople alike. She never married, declaring that she was perfectly content with her independence and her students. Emma supported her choice wholeheartedly, proud that her daughter felt free to make her own path. Thomas became a veterinarian, studying back east before returning to Arizona to practice. He traveled throughout the territory, caring for livestock and beloved family animals, and he never charged more than people could afford to pay. He married late, at 35, to a widow with 2 children of her own, and together they built a beautiful blended family. Emma and Cole celebrated their 50th wedding anniversary surrounded by children, grandchildren, and even a few great-grandchildren. The party was held at the ranch, with half the town in attendance. As Emma looked around at all the people whose lives had been touched by the choice she made that day in the town square, she felt overwhelmed with gratitude. "What are you thinking about?" Cole asked, slipping his arm around her waist. "I am thinking about how one moment of courage changed everything," Emma said. "If I had not stood up to Drummond that day, if you had not stepped in behind me, none of this would exist. Our children, our grandchildren, this life we built." "I think we would have found each other somehow," Cole said. "Some things are meant to be." Emma leaned into him, still marveling after 50 years at how perfectly they fit together. "I love you, Cole Tanner. I have loved you since that first day, and I will love you until my last breath." "And I love you, Emma Tanner," Cole said. "You are the bravest, strongest, most amazing woman I have ever known. Standing behind you that day was the smartest thing I ever did." They danced together at their anniversary party, moving slowly to the music played by a local band. Emma's hair was silver now, and Cole's face was lined with age. But when they looked at each other, they saw the young people they had been, full of courage and hope and love. As the years passed, they remained devoted to each other and to the land they had fought so hard to keep. They watched Arizona change, saw the wild frontier become more settled, witnessed the end of the century and the beginning of a new one. Through it all, they had each other. Cole passed away peacefully at the age of 83, in the house he had helped build surrounded by his family. He simply went to sleep one night and did not wake up, his hand still clasped in Emma's. At his funeral, people came from all over the territory to pay their respects to a man who had been known for his integrity, his hard work, and his devotion to his wife and family. Emma lived 3 more years after Cole's death, years that were quieter and sadder without him, but still filled with the love of her family. She spent her days working in her garden, playing with her great-grandchildren, and sitting on the porch, looking out at the land she and Cole had built their life around. On a warm spring evening in 1938, Emma Tanner passed away quietly in her sleep at the age of 78. She was buried next to Cole on a hill overlooking the ranch, beneath a sky so big and blue it seemed to go on forever. The headstones were simple, bearing just their names and dates, but everyone who knew them understood that their real legacy was not written in stone. It was in the thriving ranch, the strong family, the memory of 2 people who had loved each other completely and faced every challenge together. The ranch stayed in the family for generations, a testament to the courage of a young woman who stood up to a cattle baron in a town square one August day, and the cowboy who stepped up behind her and changed both their lives forever. The story of Emma and Cole became local legend, told and retold as an example of courage, love, and the kind of partnership that could weather any storm. Their great-great-grandchildren still work the land today, running cattle across the same pastures Emma and Cole once rode. Silver Creek still runs through the property, providing precious water to the desert landscape. And on quiet evenings when the wind blows just right, the old-timers swear you can still hear the echo of laughter from the old house, the sound of two people who loved each other and the land with equal passion. In the end, Emma and Cole's story was simple but profound. It was a story about standing up for what you believe in, about finding love in unexpected places, about building something that lasts. It was a story about two people who found each other at exactly the right moment and chose to face the world together. It was a story about the Wild West, when courage and determination could change your destiny, when love could bloom in the harsh desert, when two people could stand against overwhelming odds and win. It was a story worth telling, worth remembering, worth celebrating. And it all started with a woman who refused to back down and a cowboy who said, "I'm standing right behind you," and meant it with every fiber of his being. From that moment, everything changed, and two lives became one beautiful shared journey that lasted half a century and left a legacy that would endure for generations to come. The house still stands on the ranch, carefully maintained by the family who treasures it as a link to their past. Inside, on the mantel above the fireplace, sits a photograph taken on Emma and Cole's 50th anniversary. They are both smiling, Cole's arm around Emma's shoulders, her hand clasped in his. Behind them, you can see the ranch spreading out, the land they fought for and nurtured and loved. It is a picture of triumph, of enduring love, of a life well lived. Visitors to the ranch often comment on that photograph, asking about the couple in it. And the current generation of tanners, descendants of Emma and Cole, always tell the story. They tell about Silas Drummond and the confrontation in the town square. They tell about a drifting cowboy who heard a woman in trouble and chose to help. They tell about courage and love and the building of something that would last far beyond 2 lifetimes. And they always end the story the same way, with the words that started it all, the words that changed everything. When Emma stood alone in that square, afraid but determined, and Silas Drummond threatened her, a voice came from behind her, strong and steady and sure. "I'm standing right behind you," Cole said. And in that moment, both their futures were written. It was a promise he kept every day for the rest of his life, standing behind her, beside her, supporting her, loving her, building a life with her that became the foundations for generations to come. That is what love is supposed to be, the tanners say. That is what partnership looks like. Two people facing the world together, drawing strength from each other, building something bigger than either of them could have created alone. Emma and Cole understood that from the very beginning, and they lived it every single day of their lives together. Their story reminds us that courage can be found in the most unlikely moments, that love can bloom in the harshest conditions, that standing up for what is right matters, and that the choices we make in a single moment can echo through generations. Emma could have backed down that day in the square. Cole could have ridden past without stopping, but they did not. They stood firm together, and everything that came after flowed from that choice. The ranch continues to prosper, the family continues to grow, and the story of Emma and Cole Tanner continues to inspire. It is a reminder of what the West was really about, not just gunfights and outlaws, but ordinary people doing extraordinary things, building lives and families and legacies in a hard land that demanded everything and gave back rewards beyond measure to those brave enough to persevere. On the hill where Emma and Cole are buried, their great-great-grandchildren sometimes bring their own children, teaching them about the people who started it all. The view from that hill is spectacular, encompassing miles of ranch land, the silver thread of the creek, the distant mountains. It is the same view Emma and Cole loved, the landscape that shaped their lives and their love. Standing there, looking out at that vast expanse, it is easy to understand why they fought so hard to keep it. This land, this ranch, represents everything good about the human spirit. Determination, courage, love, family, and the willingness to stand up for what you believe in no matter the cost. Emma stood up to a cattle baron when everyone said she should just give in. Cole stood up with her when he had no reason to except that it was the right thing to do. And from those acts of courage, a legacy was born that continues to this day. The story of Emma and Cole Tanner is more than just a romance, more than just a tale of the Old West. It is a blueprint for how to live a meaningful life. Stand up for what is right. Love with your whole heart. Work hard. Support your partner. Build something that will last beyond your years. Face challenges together. Never give up. These are the lessons Emma and Cole lived, and they are lessons their descendants carry forward into each new generation. As the sun sets over the ranch, painting the sky in brilliant shades of orange and pink and purple, it is easy to imagine Emma and Cole sitting on their porch, hand in hand, watching the same display of natural beauty. They are gone now, but they are not forgotten. Their love story lives on, told and retold, inspiring others to be brave, to stand firm, to love completely, and to build lives that matter. In a world that often feels complicated and uncertain, there is something deeply comforting about their story. It reminds us that some things are eternal. Love, courage, family, the land, and the satisfaction of a life well lived. Emma and Cole found all of that and more. They found each other. And in finding each other, they found everything that truly matters. So when people ask what makes a great love story, the descendants of Emma and Cole Tanner know the answer. It is not about grand gestures or dramatic moments, though there were certainly some of those. It is about two people choosing each other every single day. It is about standing together when things are hard. It is about building something together that neither could build alone. It is about courage and commitment, and the kind of love that weathers every storm and emerges stronger. That is what Emma and Cole had. That is what they built. And that is why, more than a century after they first met in a dusty town square in Arizona territory, their story is still told, still celebrated, still held up as an example of what love can be when two people truly commit to each other and to a shared vision of the future. The ranch endures. The family thrives. The love story continues to inspire, and somewhere in the wind that blows across the desert, in the whisper of the cottonwood trees by the creek, in the very soil of the land they loved, Emma and Cole's spirits remain still together, still in love, still watching over the legacy they created on that August day in 1882, when a brave woman stood up to a bully, and a cowboy said the words that would change both their lives forever. I'm standing right behind you. Those words were a promise, a commitment, and a declaration all rolled into one. And Cole Tanner kept that promise every day of his life. He stood behind Emma, beside Emma, with Emma, through every triumph and every challenge. They built a life together that became a legend, a love that became the stuff of stories told around campfires and dinner tables for generations. That is the power of love. That is the power of courage. That is the power of two people who find each other at exactly the right moment and choose to build something beautiful together. Emma and Cole's story is a testament to all of that and more. It is a story that deserves to be remembered, celebrated, and passed down through the ages as an example of what is possible when two hearts beat as one, when two lives merge into one shared journey, when two people face the world together with courage, love, and an unshakable commitment to each other and to the life they are building. And it all started with a simple act of courage in a town square, a cowboy who stepped up when he did not have to, and the love that grew from that moment into something that would last not just a lifetime, but for generations beyond measure. That is the legacy of Emma and Cole Tanner. That is their gift to the world, and that is why their story will never be forgotten.